Okay, I call this regular council meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Thank you. Mayor Truitt. Vice Mayor Villanueva. Here. Councilmember Longabaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Alton.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Hall. Here. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if I can ask everybody to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we'll start our council reports with Councilman Longabaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. In the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of very fun things to be involved in. The first was on Monday afternoon, I was invited to attend a promotional ceremony of the police department, and I had the honor of seeing that Sergeant John Bacon and Randy Rohde were promoted to the position of lieutenant, and Officers Travis Mueller and Norm Owens were promoted to sergeant. And I had the honor personally of performing the oath of office for lateral officers Fabiola Chinchilla and Mark Filler. It is a wonderful thing to participate and see the growth of our police department, and the new minted lieutenants both looked like very enthusiastic fellows. In fact, one of them's in the building, and I had the honor of working with him a little bit last fall, and so congratulations to all of them. Secondly, regarding crime and all, I was talking to the chief recently, and he let me know that there's a website. It's www.crimemapping.com. And what crimemapping.com does is it shows an individual who goes to that site their neighborhood and what local crimes have happened, if any, in their general neighborhood. And I think this is an informational item for anyone who is interested in what's happening in their neighborhood or in any other neighborhood, for example, would be a very, very excellent tool for us to know and to be more vigilant about what's going on in our city. As I've said several times in the past, we have the #1 best city as far as prevention of crime at this time in the state of Arizona, and I think we want to keep it that way. And the last thing I want to mention is I had the honor, along with Councilman Hall, to attend the grand opening of the Cocobelli Winery and Bistro over on Grand on Sunday. And it was a very nice thing to be able to be invited, and I'd like to thank the Minicello family for wine in Arizona. And I'll be honest, I'm from California, and I thought that you couldn't grow wine in Arizona. But they informed me that there's a town called Wilcox that's about 4,000 feet up in the mountains, and it grows very good wine. And I'll be honest, I tried 3 of them, and I was impressed. So good for you, Cocobelli, and welcome to Surprise. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity to attend a meeting with the Summerfield residents along with Councilman Hall I believe it was last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago, and at which time the assistant city manager was there, some folks from the engineering department, several officers. We were talking about traffic issues, which was very deep of concern of theirs, and I believe that we were able to answer a lot of different issues. I attended the Transportation Commission meeting. I believe it was last week. This Transportation Commission is, in my estimation, made up of a lot of quality folks with a diverse background that can certainly help the city of Surprise in our endeavors to improve our transportation. I would like to see that commission meet on a more often of a basis rather than just once a quarter, as it has been. These folks could carry a lot of clout as a commission of a city and get very involved within the transportation throughout the entire valley. I attended the the annual Bell West Ranch Homeowners Association meeting. That was great. I met a lot of great people, and look forward to working with them in the future. Also attended the foreclosure committee meeting, and we're going to see some items come forward tonight, and of which we will talk about the fruit of that committee. They had 16-week opportunity to meet and to come up with some plans. We've got probably another 5 weeks left, and I think they're doing a wonderful job. I attended the groundbreaking ceremonies for a partnership venture of Roscamp and Sun Health. It happens to be called the Colonnade, and I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but the Colonnade is a senior living, a life care community, a senior living community that is located over on Grand Avenue. You can see it. The main entrance is off of Mountain View and Golden something in Sun City Grand. It is a beautiful community, beautiful buildings, and some wonderful, wonderful people. They are in District 2, and I had the opportunity to go out and help with the groundbreaking ceremonies. But what I'm so impressed is with Roscamp and the partnership with Sun Health. This has been going on for 20 years, this partnership. And I was able to meet with Mr. Roscamp, who is from Pennsylvania, and we talked about further developments within the city of Surprise, which is going to be so needed because the baby boomers, they're all growing up and they're all getting of age of looking for some place to retire. And I think that we have a real good chance of bringing some more folks here into Surprise, of which there will probably be bringing a member of the family with them to take care of. So the more amenities and the more services that we can provide to this segment of the community, the better off we're all going to be. And it's a wonderful partnership. I thank him for locating in Surprise and hope to look for many, many other developments that they pursue here in Surprise. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Villanueva.
No, I just took a little break, so I don't have a report.
Okay. Everybody's entitled to that. Mr. Williams.
I didn't take a break. I should have. A couple things that I've been doing the past couple weeks. One, I want to mention that Randy Oliver and I went out on a 3-hour tour. We didn't get lost on an island or anything. But we visited through the district, and I'm excited to work with Randy. He's got some visionary ideas, and I thank you for taking the time to do that. So that was a great thing. Met with Michael Salai as our intergovernmental individual person, and I had the honor, the mayor bestowed the honor for me to sit on the resolutions committee. So I want to thank Mayor for that opportunity. It's something I'm really looking forward to. The Resolutions Committee has members from every community in 92 cities that come together this August to convene to kind of set guidelines for legislation in our state. And I met with Michael to start to prepare for that. That'll convene in August, and look forward to that. Attended a number of HOA meetings, Northwest Ranch, Litchfield Manor, which Mr. Oliver and his wife attended with me. Surprise Farms. Attendance was low at a couple of these, and I just want to encourage the residents. Some of these meetings run really well, and they have active boards, but it'd be more effective if they got more community involvement. And I want to encourage residents, as I hear from Officer Tovar and Sergeant Ortega and Chief Hughes, that apathy kills a community. So get out to these boards. This is your first line of defense within your community. And if you want to have a say or you don't like certain rules, that's your opportunity to have your voice heard. Attended the foreclosure committee meeting. They continue to work hard. They had a 3 to 4 hour workshop. They're making progress. We've got something else on the agenda tonight coming out of their hard work. And then finally, July 30th at the Surprise Library, I'm going to have another neighborhood meeting. I chose that venue. It's more centralized in the district there. Well, it's not in District 3, but it's in the area. From 6 to 8, there's going to be a company called Welcome Home Arizona that's going to join me. They're a family-owned and operated company. They're residents of Surprise. And what they do, their mission is to get the word out on what's going on in the city, sharing information on small businesses, activities, events. And it's a husband and wife, and they do it more of on a part-time basis. But it's a great little service that they provide, and they're going to join me. I think it's a great opportunity in these economic times to kind of expose what's on our strip malls that are set back that we might not always see. Some of these businesses are having a tough time. So they're going to join me on July 30th. That's 6 to 8. Originally, that was set for the 29th. So that date has changed one day, but we'll be doing that. I invite residents to come out, other businesses that want to get involved and kind of say hello, come on out as well. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilman Alton pointed out, we went to the Summerfield Homeowners Association meeting, and also attending was Doug Sandstrom and John Abraham from traffic engineer, and Lieutenant Gang and Sergeant Ferrara. And we took a lot of heat for about 45 minutes to an hour. But after that, we got to resolving some problems, and I think we made a lot of headway with that community. They were pretty frustrated about a lot of things. I thank Councilman Alton for coming. He didn't have to come. It was in my district, but his district adjoins it, and there actually was a drainage question that he could get involved in. So thank you very much. Also, we had a meeting at Sun Village this morning, a board meeting and homeowner association meeting. And Dr. Mackey was kind enough to come to that meeting and explain some transportation questions and issues throughout Surprise, and it was very informative. He did an excellent job. He had all his easels and the whole thing. It was a good show, and it was very the Sun Village residents really appreciated it. Also, as Councilman Longabaugh pointed out, I went to the Cocobelly Bistro and Winery. And I, too, would like to welcome the Minchella family to Surprise. I think they're going to do gangbusters. I went the next night and had dinner, and it was fabulous. So it was a really good job. That's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I would like to thank Mr. Rivera. He is. I had a meeting with him about an hour and a half. He's my new appointee to the Revitalization Board. He seemed very passionate and committed to serving on the board and our citizens in the city, so I welcome him and thank him. It was a very good discussion. I'm sure he's going to be contributing to that board very well, so thank you to him. Councilman Alton is still smoke-free, so we've ordered about 5 more cases of pens and pencils for him to chew on, but way to go, Richard. Still going. I'm going to keep doing this until you start smoking. I'm going to force you to. No, but anyway, August is the Drowning Impact Awareness Month. Chief White just gave me the purple ribbon to wear, but one thing, we have a lot of pools in our community, and per capita we're among the highest in the United States, actually. And nothing can beat supervision and security. So watch and keep your pool's locks and gates closed. All it takes is 1 second. There have been incidences where they drown right in front of them and they're in the pool and not paying attention to the kids. So just be aware. Be aware around water. And the RPTA meeting, I tried to get there telephonically, but apparently it didn't work. But I did review the meeting minutes and the video. So real quick, a couple things. The quorum requirements were postponed again because at that board there's a weighted vote also, and that quorum is being discussed a little bit because technically Mesa and Phoenix, if they're not there and it's a weighted vote, we might not be able to act. So that's being discussed, and that was put off, which is good. Regional Office Center update, they're looking at now a building at 210 East Earl, which I'm sure the mayor knows about, so they're looking at moving it a little bit further north. And those are pretty much the big dollar items. Also, the lottery reform legislation, LTAF2, will no longer be funded specifically by Powerball, but instead the general lottery revenue. So that was sort of a a little added bonus. But anyway, that is my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Johnson, I think you have a new bus to announce?
Oh, yeah, the agenda item is there tonight, but we finally got it, and it's actually not just me, but the council had approved that, and the work of our staff and the RPTA, Valley Metro. We've listened to our citizens, and there was a lot of people standing on the buses, and we've got another route. So I believe it's 5:30 is the time that I just was told. So it's pretty early in the morning, but we've got 3 routes now. So we've listened to you, and thanks to the council and our staff and Valley Metro for doing that. And that is an item on the agenda, I believe. But thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Also, I mentioned last week that I wanted to thank, and again this meeting, I want to thank the councilman for filling in for me, because I have a very serious illness in my house. And gentlemen, you've done a great job. I really appreciate you attending events and giving speeches and presentations on my behalf. I very much appreciate it. I did have time to do a couple things. I attended the Luke West Valley Mayor's meeting, where I had the honor of being selected as co-chair with the base commander of this particular committee. And it's a prestigious position, and it brings great honor to the city of Surprise. So I'm very pleased and grateful for that selection. Also today, I attended at the Senior Center a presentation given by former employee Pat White, who has valley fever, and the presentation was on valley fever, and it was very, very informative. And we need to become better educated on valley fever. Another thing that we want to do is become better educated on how we can protect our children from drowning. And so therefore, I'd like to make this proclamation. Drowning Impact Awareness Month, August 2008. Whereas Drowning Impact Awareness Month will raise awareness that the number and impact of a child drowning in Arizona affects everyone. And whereas drowning incidents in Arizona take the lives of the equivalent of a classroom with children each year. And whereas a child drowning can happen to any family regardless of education or socioeconomic background. And whereas families can take simple steps to protect their children around water to avoid the tragedy of the unnecessary loss of life. And whereas water safety remains a priority for Arizona families, communities, and government, and water watchers at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And whereas keeping children healthy and safe is the goal of water watchers at Phoenix Children's Hospital, fire departments, and other prevention institutions in Arizona, raising awareness will increase understanding and education of effective ways to prevent drowning. Now, therefore, I, L.E. Truitt, Mayor of City of Surprise, Arizona, do hereby proclaim August 1 through 31, 2008 as Drowning Impact Awareness Month. And you may see that some of the council people up here at the dais have these little purple ribbons, and these can be obtained. This is the ribbon you wear to promote drowning impact awareness, and these are distributed through the fire department, the administration building. If somebody would like to get one of these, and we ask that you do. And it says very simply, what can I do? Well, the first thing you can do is wear one of these purple ribbons to remind people of the seriousness of this issue. The second thing you can do is include water safety information in existing newsletters and marketing information. Incorporate drowning impact awareness into activities in your home and wherever you go. Encourage water safety discussions at home with your children. And spread the word about existing efforts for maximum attention and support. So thank you for that, and that concludes my report. Mr. Oliver, I turn it over to you.
We just have one thing. We have a person here from Community and Recreation Services. As you know, Phoenix has had some issues with their pools. We've constantly been, been testing our pools, and we'd like to make a report as it relates to that testing, because our staff has done an outstanding job of keeping our pools safe.
Thanks. Good evening, Mayor Truitt, Council, Mr. Oliver. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm a Recreation Division Manager in the Community Recreation Services Department. And I'm sure you've heard recently in the news about the public pools that closed last week. City of Phoenix had to close down 29 of their pools when they tested the water, and they found a parasite called cryptosporidium in the water. Happy to say they are open now. Although there have been no health-related issues at our pools, and surprise, we went ahead and took proactive measures and sent our water off for testing at a lab. And I'm happy to report that those tests came back, and it's negative. There was no cryptosporidium found in either of our pools. We plan to release a press release tomorrow stating this information. And as always, staff will continue to be diligent in maintaining the water quality and make sure that the chemicals and the water clarity are in compliance. We have, the county doesn't test for crypto, but we do, they do come out and test the water quality and our chemicals, and for the last 2 summers, we have been in complete compliance with everything, so I'm happy to say that. And we also, with this, you know, it's something that we want to continue public awareness as far as healthy swimming habits. You know, this has brought up a new issue, so we plan to do that, and that's my report tonight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else? That concludes your reports. Thank you. Now we move to call to the public. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have Mike Woodard.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I spoke at the last meeting, and I'd like to kind of update because there's been a few things. I spoke about some of the good things that have happened with this council, and I'd like to address that again tonight. I'll get rid of the ones that I'm not allowed to talk about first, and that's agenda item 21 and 23. And I just want to say that I'm very pleased to see these items on the agenda. They're things that have been concern in the past, and I'm sure that after tonight's meeting, I'll be pleased with that also. The other things, I came to your workshop this evening too. I was impressed. I was not aware that some of the things that the city had been doing were not really part of the municipal code or codified in any way. And so I think I as a citizen and the citizens owe quite a bit to our HR director for recognizing this, working, I believe he said, since last February to get this prepared. And it was really quite encompassing to me, the subjects that he was took care of. So I was pleased with that. And then I asked earlier, I said, who's the guy sitting over there by Sherry, the city clerk? And they said, oh, that's the Granicus guy. He's teaching Sherry how to make it work. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned Granicus and how pleased I was that it was going to be coming, and I certainly appreciate your promptness to my request and bringing him here, you know, in just 2 weeks. That's amazing.
It showed up because of you, Mike.
I was also pleased at the last meeting I had mentioned the travel policy. That's one of the things that's been a kind of a stick in the side of some of us in the city. That was approved. I think there's still some tweaking to be done, but hey, we've got a policy that covers most every area, and that's something that I have been interested in and have been pursuing for quite some time. So I'm just really delighted that this council did it. The other thing is something that the council approved, and I believe we can thank John Williams for that, and that's the foreclosure committee that's working. Where'd that come from? Oh, from him? Okay.
Both of them.
Well, whoever it was, it's good, and I'm looking forward to the session that you're going to have. I believe it's maybe on tonight's agenda. I'm not sure, but I think we're taking some real good positive steps, and I just want to say that I think the council's doing good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I haven't said that for a long, long time to a council, but I can lately, and I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, is there any?
No, Mayor, there is none.
Okay. Then I close call to the public. We move on to the consent agenda. And just remind those that are in the audience or at home, on the consent agenda, any counselor may ask a question about a particular item without pulling it off the consent. And so now, is there anybody that has a question on any item on consent? If not, may I have a
Move to approve consent agenda.
motion? 2 seconds. So we're good to go on that. Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see. Moving on to item number 17.
Thank you. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance number 08-33, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council amending the Surprise City Code Section 125-68, the Board of Adjustment Officers, allowing the board to elect officers. This is the first reading, and presented by Assistant City Manager Kathy Rice.
I'm just here to answer any questions you may have. The board has not met yet because we have not had a case, but we did want to orient the board and felt that this section should be removed and they should be able to elect their own chair and vice chair.
Very good. Mr. Alton.
Ms. Rice, I totally agree that we should not be doing the appointing. They should, and a good call. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, this doesn't require a call to the public, so may we have a motion?
I move to approve the first reading of the ordinance number 08-33 and moving item to a second reading.
Second.
Motion, and again, 2 seconds. Thank you, gentlemen. Please cast your vote.
All in sync. Excuse me, Richard? Your vote,
Oh,
please.
excuse me.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I have no lights on this side here.
See, Richard, you wanted a cigarette, didn't you?
Okay, we'll move on to item number 18.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance number 08-31, an ordinance increasing and extending the corporate limits of the city of Surprise. And this is for an area located at the southwest corner of Cotton Lane and Waddell Road. Cotton Lane, north and south. This is the first reading.
Good evening, Mayor Truitt, members of the council. My name is Vinita Kartha, planner with Community Development. This presentation is for Cotton Lane annexation, 48 acres in size, located at the southwest corner of Cotton and Waddell. As you can see, this is the first reading. The petition represents 100% of the owners and also 100% of the value of the property owners. The signed petitions have already been filed at the Maricopa County Recorder's Office. You have seen this project before as a general plan amendment, changing the land use from low-density residential to mixed use. You will also see this project in the future as a rezoning, at which time proposed uses can be discussed. The site plan will also be before you, at which time traffic issues, lighting and design and issues such as those could also be discussed. This pretty much concludes my presentation, subject to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one. Thank you. Just as a point of clarification for some folks in response to some of the concerns with this is going to be the Truman Ranch project, and this is simply for annexation at this point in time.
Through the mayor, that is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? May I have an action, please?
I move to approve the first reading of the ordinance number 08-31 and moving item to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I almost flipped the switch at the wrong time there. So let's see, item number 18, or 19, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. The Surprise Foreclosure Ad Hoc Committee voted to approve a recommendation to council to conduct a home preservation seminar. This seminar will include city partnerships with Credit Union West and Radiant Church. The seminar will include bringing housing counselors during the week to answer questions called in, emails, and will be covered on Channel 11 for a period of 45 days. Counselors will stay through the weekend and set up Radiant Church for one-on-one foreclosure counseling with no out-of-pocket cost to the city. And this is presented by Councilmember Williams and Alton.
Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, fellow councilors. We have brought this item forward early because there is some pertinence to the timing. The committee has been assigned to do their research and recommendations to the City Council by no later than September 5th, I believe, 8th. And because there is another cycle of adjustable rate mortgages that is happening, and the interest is being adjusted, the interest rate, by the end of July, we felt that it was imminent and very, very necessary to bring out a recommendation by the council, by the ad hoc committee, to address those people that are going to be touched by this next wave of interest rate increases. And so the sooner that we can get it out to them, the better off we were going to be, or they were going to be. And we couldn't wait until the end of September or the middle of September to bring this to fruition. We needed to do it now because there was some planning. And so what I would like to have is Monica Davis, who is the chair of this committee, come up and kind of go through just a little bit of it, and then our recommendation is to direct staff, upon your approval, to work with the ad hoc committee and the Radiant Church and West Valley Credit Union, West Valley?
Credit Union West.
Credit Union West, as in a partnership to bring this all about. So with that, Monica,
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Foreclosure touches all of us, either directly through loss of a home or indirectly as neighborhood friends move away and homes are left vacant and abandoned. Local small businesses suffer as customers tighten up on discretionary spending. In short, the entire community is impacted. The City of Surprise is unique in that while we are a city of over 100,000 people, we still have the heart and soul of a small town. Tapping into that compassion and pulling together is the very thing that will help us work our way through this situation. The Foreclosure Committee is pleased to bring to this council an opportunity for us to address foreclosures at the individual homeowner level through a community outreach effort. With the support of this council, we propose an event that would be a partnership with the City of Surprise, Credit Union West, Excel, and Radiant Church. We envision that this event will take place over a period of days, beginning with a September 3rd evening panel discussion open to the public to address questions about foreclosure and credit issues. Directly following the panel discussion, HUD-certified housing counselors will be available to schedule one-on-one appointments to work with individual homeowners on their specific concerns. Who are the city's partners? Credit Union West, a well-respected financial institution, has been in the area for 57 years. They started operations working with Luke Air Force Base under the name Luke Federal Credit Union. Credit Union West has supported a number of community programs throughout cities in the West Valley, including running their popular financial fitness series of classes free of charge through our Community Initiatives Department here in Surprise. Excel, a financial education and counseling services organization based in Michigan, has more than 40 years in the business. They will bring HUD-certified housing counselors to this event in Surprise to offer one-on-one appointments for a few days following the evening forum. Credit Union West has generously offered to underwrite the cost of bringing these counselors in. Radiant Church is a well-known name in Surprise. For the past 10 years, they have been involved in numerous area outreach efforts to support families in need. Radiant has offered use of their facility in which to hold a September 3rd public session. The City of Surprise will videotape the panel discussion for replay on Channel 11 for a period of time following this event. The financial cost of this entire program to the City of Surprise will be very minimal. Basically, we will be covering our marketing and communications efforts, and that's all. With that, I'm asking for the support of the council to proceed with the planning of this event. And if you have any questions, I will answer them for you.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Williams?
I just have a comment. I just want to thank Councilman Alton and Councilman Williams for supporting this and nurturing it along the way. And I want to thank Monica and the whole committee. They're just a bunch of talented people. We're very fortunate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, Mayor, you stole my thunder. I just want to thank Monica and the entire committee. You guys are doing awesome. This is the second thing that's come forward coming out of this committee, and they're working on a number of other things in the workshop, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alton?
One last comment, Mayor, if I will, and that is, this is just an example. This committee is doing such an outstanding job. This is just another example of there is so much talent here in Surprise. And all we're asking is that from time to time, we're going to be coming to the citizens and asking for your help. And this is a committee that didn't know each other going into it, and has really worked together and has met weekly at times. And for hours upon hours upon hours, staff has had to stay here and coordinate it. And I appreciate that, Kathy. Thank you very much. But for these people to take this on and have the passion for it, I thank you. And I thank the entire committee. Thank you so much, and I look forward to a very wonderful, detailed outcome in September.
Right, and the committee thanks you for your support as well.
Thank you.
Actually, all the councilmen have stolen my thunder, but actually, not really. We're all very, very appreciative, and we understand the number of hours that you put in and all the hard work that you've done and your committee. And so we thank you, and we're really proud of you. You cause us to be proud of the City of Surprise and its residents because you came through in a big way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, may I have an action, please?
Move to approve and direct staff plan details for the September 3rd, 2008 seminar.
Second.
We have a motion and seconds. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 20.
Consideration and action on resolution number 08-113, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Regional Public Transportation Authority, Valley Metro, and the City of Surprise for Route 571. And this is presented by Community Initiatives Director Daniel Lumberg.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The agreement before you tonight for approval is for the Express Route 571 with Valley Metro, and this will provide residents with an additional trip to downtown Phoenix in the morning from Dreamcatcher Park. Those times currently are 5:35 and 6:20 a.m. This new trip would be departing at 5:55, right in the middle. In addition, a return trip in the afternoon from 18th Avenue and Adams, the current times are 4:05 and 5:05. This additional trip would return departing at 4:35. The additional trips will start this coming Monday, July 28th, pending your approval. Riders will be notified prior to Monday if approved, and council and staff is invited to a kickoff celebration with refreshments starting at 5:30 Monday morning at Dreamcatcher Park. Or tape at 10. The replacement page that you received today, we received from Valley Metro. It includes the confirmed third trip times. No other changes have been made to the agreement for your approval tonight. This item was approved in the FY09 budget, and subject to your questions, this concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Alton.
Through your chair, Mayor. Mr. Lumberg, thank you for your presentation. Is there any way, or maybe it's already been agendized, but to have a workshop with the bus authority,
RPTA?
Valley Metro,
Valley Metro.
and that's who we're going to be with, dealing with, right? To have them come in, or the board, or their management team to come in a workshop and just explain to us what they do and how they set their fees and how they charge us and how does that work within the entire region. I believe
It'd probably be appropriate for Mr. Johnson to make those arrangements, as he is our representative for the RPTA.
Right.
So, Mr. Johnson, would you take that task on?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we can all be on the same field and understand what you're saying.
Anything else? Hearing none, please give me an action.
I move to approve resolution number 08-113. I also move to modify the current intergovernmental agreement with the City of Phoenix to operate Surprise Route 571 Express Bus Service once Valley Metro takes over, and all associated budget transfers.
Second.
Motion and a fast second. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Item number 21.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance 08-35, an ordinance of the mayor and council amending the city code, chapter 2, article 2, section 2-92, placement of items on the agenda, first reading. And this is our city attorney, Michael Bailey.
Mayor and council, this item was requested to be on by Councilmember Johnson. What this does is this is for consideration as an amendment to the two-signature requirement. As this council has become intimately aware of, that presents some challenges at times with the open meeting law. And what we're doing is this would be amending it to have a single signature requirement. Also, it does not alter the current practice of the council by any means of presenting the items at the council meeting at the future agenda items. With that, I'm available for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes. Through your chair. Mr. Bailey, the way it was discussed last council meeting was that if it does come to the floor during the time of the council meeting that we're talking about future agenda items, that if there's doesn't have any negative comment, then it's construed or implied that there is a second signature, or could be, with that particular item going forward, and that's why it's being placed on a future agenda, correct?
Well, I think probably Councilmember Johnson would be better to speak to that. Again, in terms of bringing this forward, it was at the direction in terms of I guess if you're talking about future practice, I think it's anticipated that during the items there will be a proposal to be presented at a future meeting, and in the event there is no opposition to it coming forward, staff will bring that item forward. If I understand, and
right,
that is,
as an agenda item at the end of the agenda.
Correct,
as
and
we
that would
have
be allowable.
in the past. Right.
That would be allowable under what we're proposing this evening. Correct.
Right, and so therefore, Mr. Johnson is requesting that just one signature. All it would take is to get a particular item on an agenda.
That is correct.
Okay. I have a little difficult time with that, Mr. Johnson, and the reason for that is that I think it's a process that refines itself by going out and getting another council member to co-sponsor an item, rather than we could all come in with items all over the board, and we would probably have 50 different agenda items at a time. Whereas this kind of refines it down a little bit by having another set of ears, another set of eyes to be able to look an item over and give the thoughts as to whether or not they would be willing to co-sponsor an agenda item. And I know that in the past there was an issue of you were looking around for somebody to co-sponsor something with you. And that presented a problem. And I don't know what legal department would have to say about that and how to alleviate that, but I kind of like to have the two people co-sponsoring an agenda item.
Here's, through the chair.
Sure.
Obviously, I might have felt that way previously, but not all the time. Even if I get a general, or any of us, not just me, but if we get a general indication that it's acceptable, if we get that general indication, we ask somebody, Richard, and they happen to say, well, you know what, I thought about it and no. And then you go to another person, I thought about it and no. So to me, I trust the council members up here that we're not going to be putting grandstanding issues and stuff like that up here. And I think the reason it was one signature at one time. And just speaking from what I think why it changed, was, I think the council members might have thought that that might be taking place. But it comes down to the trust in your other fellow council members, and I place trust in you guys. So I don't think you're going to do that. But I think if you want to discuss an item, you're going to discuss important items in city business. So I think it'll alleviate the issue, one of the issues that I am now facing. So I think it will alleviate that, and I trust everybody. So I would say I understand where you're coming from, but in such a small body, I mean, you know, you hear at a national and at a state level that they get second signatures or co-sponsors of bills, etc. We're limited to these 6 others. So if 6 others have a change of heart or something, or not even 6 others, if you go to 2, now what they're trying to say is that can be an open meeting violation, just asking for a signature, which I disagree with, but it could be construed that way, and it is right now. So I think you'd only have to ask 2, and they say no, and you might be in some issues. So I would say 1 person. I feel that would be good enough, and I trust that, and I think we're going to we won't have a problem with it. So that's my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
I've seen the process where you just have 1 signature and the other having 2 signatures, and we have changed it. We changed it years ago to have 2 signatures because they did misuse their signature to get anything on. Whether I want to fire the city manager, I'll put him on. And I agree with Mr. Alton that you should have a second signature to get something on the agenda.
Mr. Longabaugh.
I sorry to disagree, Roy, but I think with, like Councilman Johnson said, I think most of us are smart enough, and we're not going to put frivolous items on an agenda because we'll be embarrassed in front of 107,000 people that live in the city of Surprise. I think we will put serious items on the agenda, and I trust that each of you and myself would only bring items to this agenda that belong here. So I think that one signature should be enough. We should be able to, as Joe said, trust each other, that we're not going to grandstand and we're not going to be frivolous when we bring something to the agenda. So that's where I'm coming from.
Through the chair.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Bailey, what can you just outline what might be typical in, say, other cities comparable to our size? Phoenix was much larger, but what's the process? What's the typical process, if there is any?
Mayor and Council, there really is not a typical process. Ours is by no means an anomaly, but there is not there's not a consensus of processes in terms of how items are put on an agenda.
Anyone else? Mr. Hall?
Just one comment. I know what Councilman Alton's talking about refining your position. When you get a second sponsor for something that you want to put on the agenda, you have to think it through and talk it out and articulate it. And I think there's a refinement that goes on. I think it's positive. I really do. I think if there's just one signature, we could have the potential of wasting the rest of the council's time on an issue that, you know.
Walt?
Thank you, Mayor. In particular, all of us are going to be faced with this every 4 years, and that is an election year. And that if we had an item or an agenda process that only took one signature, and it happened to be an election year of which you were running for re-election or possibly that of higher office, it may taint how many items you bring in and the quality of those items. And so therefore, that being said, as much as I want to vote for this thing, Joe, and give you an opportunity to bring items without subjecting yourself to any open meeting law violations, I still think that it should take 2 people. It's also my understanding that the city attorney has the capability of co-signing an agenda item. Isn't that true?
In terms of appointed officials or staff, the way that it currently reads is that an item would be submitted to the city attorney, the city clerk, or the city manager. So there is some discretion that's held with those individual offices in terms of items being placed on there. Just one item I want to just remind you about, and that is with regards to the two-signature requirement. While it is not per se an open meeting violation, it could be perceived that, and in the event that one individual, your first individual that you seek a signature from says no, the more you move along down the line, that could be a problem. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
Mr. Johnson?
Through the chair. And plus, I don't know that I want individual council members going to the city manager or the city attorney to try to get items on the agenda either. That might put them in an awkward position. And so doing that, I don't know that I feel comfortable with that. But I will tell you this, obviously. They are interpreting the law or opinioning the laws, the open meeting laws, that they're serious, and they should be. But trust me, they're going to be very strict. And if you ask two people, apparently that's it. You're done. And if it's something that you feel, oh, well, maybe someone else would like to talk about it. I just think, Richard, it comes down to trust is what you're telling me, what I'm hearing, and what the citizens are hearing. And I trust you guys. I tend to say I don't think we're going to use it as an election tool. I trust everybody up here. So I think if they want to discuss something, it's going to be important, and they're not going to misuse this seat. And I appreciate Councilmember Longabow's sharing of that. But it comes down to trust, you guys. And I trust you, and I hope it doesn't happen, and I trust it won't happen. So I think we should go with one signature to avoid even trying to deal with the Attorney General. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Bailey, I got one more question. In the current process, in that situation that Councilman Johnson just described, and you've gone to one council member, they've said no, you've gone to another, they've said no, then you come back the next council meeting, and on future agenda items, you ask that item to be brought forward. Is that considered a violation of the open meeting law at that point?
Mayor and Councilmember Williams, you've put me in a very difficult position because you now asked legal advice, and I would prefer that I would render that legal advice to you in an executive session. However, I think I'm comfortable in stating that by proposing any future agenda item at a noticed meeting, in the practice that we currently have with the future agenda items, there would not be an issue with the open meeting law.
Mr.
Okay.
Alton.
Yes, thank you. So, Mr. Bailey, and your recommendation is to keep it from any look or smell of an open meeting law violation, that we should do what has been recommended by Mr. Johnson, Councilman Johnson, that is have one signature necessary to put an item on the agenda.
Mayor and Council, that is an alternative that the council could use. Is it the only alternative? No, it's not the only alternative, but being proposed tonight, that is an alternative that could be used that would not, let's say, raise any eyebrows in terms of perceived open meeting law violations.
Okay. And in follow-up to that, and we don't want to beat this up all night long, but in follow-up to that, so the other cities, other municipalities are doing the same thing. They're doing it with just one signature or two?
Mayor and Council, I haven't polled all the cities. I am familiar with how they work. I do know from the cities that I've worked with directly, their primary practice in terms of placing council-generated items being placed on the agenda is via the future items agenda item, and that is when typically the council will propose that item to be placed on a future agenda item. As a general practice, that's my familiarity with it.
Right. One of the things that this council did early on is we brought that, we created an agenda item that allows us to request something to come back, either workshop or agenda. And the reason for that was so that our residents would kind of know what we're thinking, and it gives them sort of an advance notice. Perhaps they want to have some input into that particular issue. And so I would strongly recommend, regardless of which way you vote this evening, that you consider utilizing that already created agenda item. We're right here in the public. We can say, would you bring this back? And then if there's some degree of negativity, then we can go with whatever route we're going to be voting on tonight, whichever way it goes. But please consider doing as much as possible in open meeting. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry. To your chair, Mayor. So if we wanted to vote this out, then it goes back to the 2 signatures required, plus the agenda item that we currently have in existence. How can we get it to just an agenda item request, rather than 1 signature, 2 signatures, just straight on, right in front of, in the citizens?
If that's your desire, an appropriate motion would be just to direct me to craft legislation in that regard, and I would ask that whoever proposes that we would work together to try and prepare that legislation and bring it back at a later date.
What do we do with this then, this agenda item?
Well, what we need to do is address motion by motion.
Okay.
So it depends on what motion we have, and we'll act on that, and then we'll move on if that doesn't pass. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 08-35 and moving the item to a second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is there anybody from the public who wants to speak on this?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, please cast your vote.
Five no votes, 2 yes vote, Johnson and Longabaugh.
Thank you very much.
Mayor and Council, just to summarize there, the item has failed. We would proceed now to item number 22, and in the event that a council member would want to propose future legislation, they could do so at the future agenda item.
That's my understanding. Thank you. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance number 08-32, an ordinance to amend the City Code, Section 2-299, Arts and Cultural Advisory Board from 7 voting members to 8, and to add a 4th ex officio member category. First reading presented by ACM Kathy Rice.
Hi, I'm just here to answer questions if you have any.
Through the mayor, Kathy, I only have one, and it's that in the very unusual circumstance, an even number on a committee or commission is not always a good thing. Would it be better to make it 9?
It could be.
I mean, is that a big issue?
That's not a big issue.
Expand it to an extra.
The more, the better, I would think.
Well, I'm just thinking that there are times in which there are dissent, and an even vote could be difficult for items to be brought forward. And it's already been written into an ordinance, though. Could that be a minor?
The other thing to do would be when somebody its term was up, to take it back to 7 voting members. So there are 2 ways to address that.
Okay.
Mr. Alter.
Sure. Kathy, it's my understanding that trying to get 100% attendance on this particular board is difficult on any vote. I mean, it just doesn't happen every month or every quarter that they meet.
We had a problem initially at the first of the year, but we haven't had a problem recently with the recent people on the committee.
Okay. And when is the next term expiration?
You just appointed a number of people, which would make it the 8 people. You appointed somebody as the 8th person.
Right, right. I understand that.
So we're ahead of the ordinance.
Sure. Could we therefore change it to an ordinance of 9 people to go along with that of Councilman Longabaugh, and we then interview for one more position?
Mayor and Council, nothing prohibits you at this point in time from changing the number of members that has been proposed.
do that.
Any further discussion? May I have an action?
Okay.
Move to approve ordinance 08-3.
Would you please have an amendment,
With an
Roy,
amendment.
to add a ninth seat?
We have a motion to approve with the amendment to 9 members. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have seconds. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak here?
No, Mayor?
Hearing no one from the public. Any further discussion? Gentlemen, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 23.
Thank you. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance 08-36, an ordinance of the mayor and council amending the Surprise City Code, Chapter 2, Article 3, Section 2-148, non-interference by council, first reading. And this would be City Attorney Michael Bailey.
Again, Mayor and Council, this was an item that was requested to be placed on the agenda. What we have put before you, there was questions with regards to our non-interference ordinance, and this is generally directed to staff members that have been assigned to work directly with the mayor and council. While there are staff members that do that, there was concern that that type of relationship would be in violation of the non-interference provision. What we've done is we've clarified it, and part of this work goes back, it's dated back to when Bill Sims with Moist Story came out and worked with the council last year. But we've added subsection D, which really provides the authority of the city manager to, and I'm a little tired this evening, and it is a little circular in terms of logic, but he has the ability to direct a staff member to take direction from the council and be in accordance or not in a violation of the non-interference provision. With that, if you have any questions, I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Through the chair, I had, Michael, could you address D on this? Notwithstanding the foregoing, the city manager in his or her absolute discretion may assign or budget for an employee to perform administrative work on behalf of the mayor and council?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Hall, what this really goes to is, and this is a similar situated relationship with other cities, council needs staff members to do staff work on their behalf. The way our non-interference provision was written, it prevented that work to occur. There are times when council needs to direct staff to assist them in certain measures. The way that our ordinance read at that time, there was concern that there was a violation. This allows it, so it is very similar to other cities in the sense that while that employee still is under the direction and managerial control of the city manager has the power, the authority to assign that individual to take direction from council. So again, I'm familiar with Glendale. Glendale is similarly situated in the sense that there are individuals that support the council. However, they really are under the managerial control of the city manager.
Okay, so the city manager, as an example, would do the review of that employee, but get input from council members and the mayor as to how that employee was doing.
Yes, I'm familiar with that, but again, that would be a discussion that I think Mr. Oliver and the council would have. But that is, that would be appropriate to occur within this ordinance.
Mr. Johnson.
Through the chair. I like it, Michael. I told you the one little word that I had in there, and Mr. Oliver, this is nothing against you. I think you should do that. I'm fine with that. But instead of may assign someone to us, I would have liked the word shall assign someone to us. Because then that leaves it where if you don't want to assign anybody to us, you don't have to. And I know the difference between may and shall. And I think that I trust you to pick the person. I trust you to get with us on feedback. But I think we should have somebody in that position. So I think it should be assigned. And I think it should be done by you. but I think we should. It's not a question of may, or we might not, or we should. So that's my opinion. I just want one word changed.
Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. Before Mr. Oliver answers that, I would like to just say something, and that is I don't believe that we're looking to reestablish a proposal for a new person to come in and take care of mayor and staff. I may be completely wrong. How I interpreted this is that it could be a Stephanie or it could be a Kim, somebody that's already on staff, that Mr. Oliver has given them the authority to work with council on a need basis. When we have something come up we need some help with, that they would be available to assist us. And not just necessarily to garner information as we can ask for, but to actually do some work at our direction. Is that correct, Mr. Oliver?
Yes, and as you aptly pointed out, the person that's assigned is going to depend on the specific task. If it's a traffic issue, it may be somebody from traffic engineering to address that task better, because what I like to do is to assign the person, there's no point in having a go-between. You need the person that can give you the answers and give you the answers in the best manner possible. So you need to assign the person, based upon that particular task. And I think with many of you in the last couple of weeks, as we worked on the agenda together, I tried to bring the people, as we went over agenda items in, that could respond or get you the information or place something on a future agenda.
Great, thank you.
Through the chair.
Mr. Johnson.
I was looking at this as strictly administrative stuff. That's what it says in here, administrative work. I'm not talking about, and I know Mr. Oliver would do that and let us talk to department heads directly and not be a go-between. I'm talking about making reservations, keeping our calendar, I'm talking about administrative stuff, handling complaints and getting us the messages. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, issues that we want to get information on from Public Works or from something like that. But I think that all I'm saying is it may seem minor, but instead of may, I think it should be shall, because I think we need that person. So I would like it. I mean, he's going to appoint somebody. I think so far it's been Kim, but at least that's who I've been going to. So if that's okay with you. I don't know. So I just want one word changed, I guess.
Mr. Oliver.
The way this is currently worded, however, I believe it's broader than that, and that is the issue. I mean, if we narrow the definition, but it's the administration's job, be it the city manager, anybody in the city staff, to serve not only the mayor and the council, but also the citizens, and we need to do that. And that's where I think, as you said before, there needs to be some trust in me, because what I need to do sometimes is prioritize things based on the effort required. And nobody's done this here, but you can get into situations sometime where somebody wants an analysis of this or an analysis of that, and it's going to take a period of time to put that together. And we're willing to put that together, but we need to look at how we prioritize things.
And so through you, Chair. And so then by having the word may covers that rather than shall.
Well, I think may, and I would commit to you, Councilmember Johnson, that we're going to work and do whatever it needs to take to meet the needs of the council. That's my job. I think this change, though, is appropriate so that there's no misunderstanding the way that it's worded. If you want to word it, just to handle reservations and phone messages and things like that, we can tweak that. I can work with it. I don't know that I necessarily think that it's absolutely essential.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 08-36 and moving the item to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there somebody from the public that would like to speak on this?
Yes, there is. The first person would be Mike Woodard.
I'm real pleased to see this ordinance, sections A, B, and C. I have some questions on section D, just as I did months ago when we were dealing with a similar position. One of my concerns as working in administration for 40 plus some years, when you have a person, and perhaps City Manager Oliver clarified this, and I'm not sure, I just want to make sure. But when you have a person who's going to be working for and receiving direction from 7 different people, who is going to prioritize, who is going to, somebody, they have to have one person they can go to. When you have an employee that reports to 1, 2, 3, 4 different people, you can have a problem. I've been in those situations where I had people that reported to me and also reported to someone else above me. And that's an untenable situation to be in. Believe me, because if an employee needs a discipline and I go to the person above me and they say, listen, I really like her, just let it go. Well, that can infect the whole office. I had an office of 10 people that one person totally infected and almost made it very difficult to work. That's a great concern that I have. I'm not opposed to the position. I think it's great. I mean, essentially, this is a position that is already being filled. From what I'm gathering, it's people making travel arrangements, it's handling the telephone, it's scheduling, and all that. And it has previously been done by a current employee, and I guess for years it's been working. So my question is, why are we making a change? Is it based on this deal about giving directions? I think the intent of people like myself, because I have I have concern when council gives direction. But I also have some common sense, I believe, that if you're giving directions in regards to travel arrangements.
We'll go 1 more minute.
Travel arrangements or scheduling or calendaring, hey, that's you need that. And you need to have that flexibility to do that. There's common sense. And that's kind of my position on this is I'm not sure that it's needed in a formal structure. And then if it does become in a formal structure, wow, then they've got 7 or maybe even 8 bosses if they're also going to report to Mr. Oliver. And that can be very difficult, really hard. Sure glad I wouldn't have to do that. Thank you.
We have Ken Wright.
Ken Wright. Glad to see this brought up tonight. One point that hasn't been made yet, which is as a long-term observer of council actions, I compliment whoever brought this forward in terms of consistency about definition of inquiry and direct, so that this is consistent. I'm putting Mr. Bailey to sleep. And it's consistent with the ethics code, and I think that's good. In terms of D, Mr. Johnson brought up what I thought this was going to do, which is resurrect the creation of a position. And I don't think that that ought to be considered. Mr. Oliver, in my opinion, has well captured the ability to designate knowledgeable staff to work with the council on anything from A to Z. I think that's the way it ought to stay. If, however, a significant need arises in the future for some kind of a more targeted effort, then quite obviously it ought to come back here. if it comes back, it should come back in a much more clear manner than that spec sheet that was brought to you people earlier. That was a travesty. The duties intruded on virtually every arm of the city government that we already have in place. And hopefully if something does come back, it comes back with something that makes some operational sense and is controllable. From an overall standpoint, as far as bringing this up, in a few months you guys have taken care of council rules and regulations and ethics policy and a council expenditure policy. This just adds to the good things that you guys have done as far as internal controls go. You can't do much effectively externally unless you have control of the internal organization. You guys have done a great job with that. I hope you continue to hone in on any other things that need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
No, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further consideration?
Real quick, just a point of clarification, since my name was mentioned. I'm not saying that we need another person. I'm just saying that whoever is doing our administrative work, he needs to okay it, apparently, if this goes. He needs to okay that we can give direction to them. And if it's Kim that's doing our administrative work, I'd like to get that and say, it's okay, Joe, you can tell Kim what to do as far as administration and making your schedule and calling people. That's all I'm saying, because I'm telling you, technicalities, we're directing her to what to do, so all I want is permission that I can do that. And I'm sure it's okay, right? Thank you, Mr. Oliver. There we go. I'm good.
Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 24.
Thank you. Consideration and action on Resolution 08-126 to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Valley Metro to locate, acquire land, design, and construct a regional park and ride facility in the City of Surprise, presented by Stephanie Wilson, City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you this evening is an intergovernmental agreement between Valley Metro and the City of Surprise. And what this allows us to do is to secure the regional funding that's been set aside for us for a regional park and ride facility. This proposed facility would, in fact, replace the temporary location that we have right now that's out by the stadium. And the funding source for this project is all regional funds. It's coming from the half-cent sales tax for transportation, referred to as Prop 400, some of you may be familiar with. And this particular project is budgeted for $4.5 million for the total project. We do have this in our existing CIP, and that concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Good Chair. Thank you, Stephanie. The IG agreement's they're going to get a consultant to make sure that their targeted goal of $4.5 million for this project is going to be met. If it's more money, will that still be regional funding coming in?
Through the Mayor, Councilman Williams, we've been told that the $4.5 million is capped and there wouldn't be any additional regional funding beyond that. However, we do have the ability to make changes to the recommended design of the site to possibly reduce some costs. Right now we're looking at probably 6 acres would be the minimum that we would want to have, and that would allow us for just about 600 spaces, and that would fulfill our needs. If we do, once we get the consultant on board and they're able to look at some sites for us and give us some preliminary designs, we'll be able to come back to the council and let the council know if we do see something going over budget. If you have interest in any upgrade features, things beyond just a paved lot, then we can also address those at that time.
Mr. Johnson.
Through the chair. Stephanie, also, this was being talked about, and you might know it, and you might, Mayor, but the timing of our reimbursements, they were discussing possibly changing that because a lot of these things were getting built, and then the cities didn't have it budgeted for 3 years, so they didn't expend anything, and they got the money, the matching funds, and they didn't expend them, and they didn't spend what was supposed to be matched. So that's been being discussed down there on how to fund these things. So that's just, I don't know if you know that's being discussed, but how the matching funds are given to the municipalities is being discussed. So we won't have the advantage that some other cities had before. So I just wanted to point that out to our council members. Thank you.
And through the mayor, Councilman Johnson, that's a good point. At this particular time, we don't have any requirement for matching funds. But if we do run into a situation where you do want to make some upgrades to the site, then that would be something that the council would have to consider at that time.
And Mr. Longabaugh.
Stephanie, is it also true that once the park and ride lot is built, will the matching funds be able to be used, if any are not expended, to maintain it? Or who will be stuck with the maintenance? The city?
The city will own and maintain the site. The funds that have been budgeted through Prop 400 are specifically for design and acquiring the property and then constructing the site. I would guess that there will likely not be any leftover funding, but at that time, if there is, we might be able to amend the plan at Valley Metro. We would have to discuss it with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephanie, the location of this park and ride is yet to be determined?
Through the mayor, Councilman Alton, that is correct. Right now, we've identified some specific areas of interest that would follow the Grand and Bell corridors. And right now, we don't want to move the site too far from where the existing site is, because we do have a lot of residents that are using that, and it's a convenient location for them. So at this time, we've done a survey when we were surveying for the timing of the third route, the third express route downtown. We were able to identify some areas where we're having the highest population coming from, and we'd like to focus in on meeting the needs and making it more convenient for those residents.
Will the council have any input as to the location?
We would be more than happy to bring back any updates and information for the council to consider.
I am personally very concerned as to the location, that it facilitates the city of Surprise residents and not any other cities. Okay, that we are making this happen for the betterment of our community. Therefore, I would like to see it no farther, say, east than where it is located now, and provide all the amenities that we can, given the limited amount of resources. So, yeah, I believe that we would like to be included as you continue to go down this road and finalize things and so forth. We would like to receive some input.
I think we can consider that as general direction, which may be appropriate for future updates. But we need to understand that we have a specific agenda item here that we're addressing tonight.
I think
further discussion?
through the chair, real quick.
Mr. Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hall.
On the right now, it's the park and ride is by the stadium, right?
Dreamcatcher Park. They're using the Dreamcatcher Park lot.
I think some of this is going to be a little bit driven by economics, and I think we're going to have to go further east.
And again, that's not really what we're addressing here, the location.
Right, but I'm saying I don't think you need a specific direction that we don't go east.
Mr. Johnson?
Just for to take care of Mr. Longabow's, if we have extras. 3 years ago, the value engineered version of the park and ride was about 6 or 7 million. So we're at 4.5 matching. So I don't think there's not going to be much left. So that was 3 years ago. But just for your info. But
we may end up having to move it way north.
To get a real good deal. Anyway,
may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve resolution 08-126.
Second.
We have a motion and seconds. Is there anybody from the public care to speak?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Any further consideration? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 25.
Yes, consideration and action on liquor license application request for Circle K store. The applicant has asked to withdraw his application.
Right, and so this item will not be considered this evening. Applicant has requested that this be withdrawn from tonight's agenda, and so we will be moving on.
Thank you very much. Number 26, consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance 08-26. It's approving a rezoning for a project known as southwest corner of Bell Road and 115th Avenue. And this is presented by Hobart Wingard. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Truitt, council members. Tonight I'm bringing forth a rezone for a small piece of property at the southwest corner of Bell Road and 115th Avenue, located on the eastern portion of our city. Just for a little bit of contextual map here, we are right across the street from the Canyon Ridge West and Coyote Lakes development, and to the west is the Rose Garden Mobile Home Park, and to the east is the Citrus Point that's located in the county, and also a RV sales facility. Zooming in a little bit closer to show the existing zoning, everything above the Bell Road is PAD, but all the uses along Bell Road are commercial. And you'll notice that on 3 sides of this property, which is only 3/4 of an acre, it is zone C3. Just going a little bit closer here, showing the uses. They have some shops and a auto repair facility right adjacent. And just to clarify what C2 and C3 uses are, the C2 is a community commercial, which is for lower intensity uses such as retail and offices. And the C3 classification allows more intensive uses such as automobile sales facilities, equipment rental, that sort of facilities. And with this, that would be clearing that up into C3. That concludes my presentation, barring any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions on this item?
Yeah, through the chair. The properties right to the east that are C3, those are in the county, right? Correct?
Through the mayor, yes, they are in the county.
So we don't really have any control over those, what the county does.
Correct.
Now, this is, we've got a brand-new shopping center under construction called Belmar, just to the east of this on the north side of Bell, correct?
Through the mayor, yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Well, I for one do not feel it's very wise to give up a C2 zoning there at that just because it's surrounded by C3 right now. Doesn't make much sense for me. I don't know why do you think it makes so much sense? Just because there's C3 zoning around it?
There's C3 zoning around it, and the owner does have an intended use for that, though we're not considering that tonight, that for automobile sales.
But in the way you articulated it, it would go back to C2 zoning if they didn't do auto recreation vehicle or boat sales?
When we originally took this to the Planning and Zoning Commission, yes, that stipulation was on there. And we went back to after discussions with the legal department, we determined that there should not be any stipulations connected to a rezone.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and took the stipulation off, and it was approved without the stipulation.
I mean, I think we got to be sensitive to the fact that this is a gateway to the city. It's our east gateway. So.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
How large a parcel is that?
Excuse me?
How large is that?
That is 3/4 of an acre.
3/4 of an acre. And currently, it's been abandoned for how long, roughly?
It's been several years.
Okay, it's been an eyesore for several years. There's been an abandoned convenience store there, I think it was.
Used to be a fuel and convenience store.
And on each side is a C3 zoning. One is the RV section, is that right?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. This is an RV facility over here to the west. And also in the county is an RV facility on this side. And this has several shops and also an auto repair facility, a tire store.
Okay.
In this area.
Well, me personally, I think the rundown building for 2.5 years is more of an eyesore than if we give them the opportunity for a C3 zoning to put something functional there. So in my opinion, I think they want to do something with it, and you're telling me they have an idea, but it's not going to be coming forward at this meeting, but they do have an idea of what they want to do with it, and anything they want to do with it would probably be better than a broken down convenience store. So in my opinion, I agree, it's a gateway into the city, and it's an eyesore every time I pass that thing. So with all due respect, I think the change in zoning might be a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, isn't there something we can do in a code enforcement standpoint? I mean, a broken out sign, why is there a broken out sign there? You know, it doesn't have to be a broken out sign. I mean, that's just a code enforcement deal. Plus, they had to have tanks removed and get certification from the state that they were removed, and it was all environmentally. That took time, okay? So, you know, that consumed a lot of the 2 years. So maybe, and with Belmar under construction, I mean, I think we have to look at the momentum of the area and consider that too. So.
Mr. Alton.
Yes, thank you. You know, 3/4 of an acre.
Through the chair,
it's
yes,
not
sir.
much land. I think the gateway has already been established. As much as I'd love to see a beautiful expressway coming into town, just beautiful palm trees and all that. It'll never happen in our lifetime. Therefore, I got to think that what has been proposed is what's probably going to happen. It's going to be necessary, and it'll look good. 3/4 of an acre does not have that much impact on the rest of the avenue.
Anything further?
Well, it's a hard corner. I have to remind you, it's not a soft corner. It's a hard corner. Also, the city is in, I need to remind all the council that the city is putting $500,000 in landscaping and right in that area. It's going to start probably the end of this year. And so there is going to be lights and new landscaping. So you might see palm trees in your lifetime.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance numbered 08-26 and moving the item to second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. This item does require a call to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Yes, Sharon Marco, please.
Thank you, council members. Just listening to your discussion, I thought it was interesting that we're talking about a zoning change before you know what it is that's requesting to come into that particular parcel. I think that Councilmember Hall makes a good point. While indeed, Councilman Alton, that the porthole may be established and current use may be established, I think that given that there's some changes, you might want to know what that change is before you make the change in the actual designation of the land. So I just a note of caution.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this particular item?
No, Mayor.
Seeing no one, hearing no one, I close the call to the public. And is there any further discussion?
Just
Mr. Johnson?
Just an item. I mean, I wish we could do that, but unfortunately, different zonings offer several different opportunities on land. We can't just tell somebody, oh, C2, you're going to do this C2, or if we give you C3, you're only going to do this C3. So I feel the citizens' pain, but it's just that's the realization. Zoning takes into several usages, and we try to group them together as best we can. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Mr. Alton?
Hobart, does this item come back after this zoning change? Does this come back to the P&Z for
Through
approval?
the mayor, whatever they do come forward with would have to go through a site plan or a conditional use permit, which would have to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Would then be scrutinized and
absolutely
fitted within that parcel, that 3/4 of an acre.
Yes, and following all our design guidelines and standards that we do have.
Just as a word of caution, it only goes to P&Z. We do not see it at council if it's a site plan or a conditional use permit. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
6 yes vote, 1 no vote. Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 27.
Consideration and action on items to be placed on future agendas.
Is There we go.
Well,
Mr.
well,
Johnson.
well. You just made a comment, Mayor, that I've been wanting to throw out here to the council members. Conditional use permits don't come to us. They used to. I guess, Mr. Bailey, I want input. Does someone want to discuss bringing that responsibility back to us so we determine conditional use permits? I would like to see it come before us personally.
Okay, so consider that direction. Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing else.
I'd like to revisit the issue we discussed earlier. I think there is still an undiscussed matter of what to do about direction from the city manager, from the council members, and I'd like, Michael, for you, Michael Bailey, for you to recast what was defeated earlier this evening to something that might be acceptable. I think we need to remove part of subparagraph D. I think most of the rest of it was acceptable to the council. I think the hitch point was the word
Longbaugh,
may.
I think we approved that item tonight.
No, we didn't. Did we lose? I thought we lost. Just the two of us. I am sorry. Excuse me.
That was placement of items on the agenda.
Oh, that was a different item. I apologize.
Not a problem.
I do have something, Mayor.
Go for it.
That I would like to have brought back on a future agenda, and I'd like to maybe say the future agenda in like 2 months. And the reason for the 2 months is that study is still being done, a presentation is still being completed, but I'd like to bring back the travel policy for council and mayor. And future discussion will then prevail.
2 months.
2 months.
Anything else? No. Yes, we can request a workshop on a particular item.
Okay, I would like to request a workshop maybe in September or maybe August, but probably September, on Tourism Council. I'd like to be able to talk about that, have staff look into it, and what it could do for the city and all that.
Okay, one note of caution is we have, because we're such a hardworking council, we have a pretty booked schedule, but what we'll try to do is see how quickly we can fit that in. Mr. Johnson?
While we're on workshops, the RPTA Valley Metro, let me just make sure I got some of the points that I heard. You want them to describe rate structure, fare structures?
Yes.
Is that right? We want them to discuss maybe route selection, and then maybe cost per mile determinations.
Right.
Is that okay?
And
Okay.
fare box.
Okay.
Given the cost of gas.
Okay.
Terrific. Anything else for future agenda items? Hearing none, we're going to close that. And now I believe we have some executive session business we have to take care of. May I have a motion to, and Mr. Bailey, we're not coming out to take any action. Right. So, folks, we won't be coming out to take any action, so all we'll do is come out to close the meeting. So we want you folks to be warned that you don't have to wait around to see what's going to happen, because nothing will happen other than we'll close the meeting. So a motion and a second for...
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
In favor, say yes. Yes. Okay, thank you.